Here we're going to solve this quadratic equation by factoring. This is the method that you use when there is no number in front of what is squared. So the coefficient for what is squared is a 1. So the first step is to substitute 0 for y. And the reason that you can do that, if you think of the graph of a parabola, what we're doing here is by solving, we are finding the x-intercepts. And like the x-intercepts here, like this one would be -2, 0. This might be 3, 0. With x-intercepts, we're trying to figure out what does x equal when y is 0. So that's what we're doing with the equation as well. We're trying to figure out what can we put in for x, so when we square it and add and subtract, multiply, the answer is 0. So in order to figure out, to factor this, what we're doing is we're trying to find two numbers that multiply to give us this last number. So what two numbers multiply to give us -18 and add to give us the middle number. So add to give us +3. Make sure that you are paying attention to whether those are positive or negative. And now what you're doing is really just guess and check. You might figure it out on your first attempt, or it might take 4 or 5 guesses to find out what those two numbers are. So if you're trying to think, well, where do I start? I always start with 1. So I think, what 1 times what number gives me -18? And so then say, well, when I add them together, does that give me 3? No. So now I'm going to change those so that the 1 is negative and the 18 is positive. And so try adding those together. Does that give me gives me 3? No. And then you go to 2. Is 2 a factor of 18? Yeah, 2 times 9 is 18. So let's do 2 times -9. But when we add those, that doesn't give us 3. So let's change it to -2 and 9. -2 plus 9 doesn't give us 3. So now I'm going to try 3. Let's try 3 and 6. 3 times -6 is -18. And 3 plus -6 is -3. We're looking for +3. So we're close. Let's just try switching those signs. -3 and +6. -3 plus 6 is 3. So we found our two magic numbers. It's -3 and 6. So that's what's going to go inside the parentheses. This is what factoring it is. We're changing this to a multiplication problem. What times what gives us the x squared plus 3x minus 18. Now the first term inside each of the parentheses is x, because x times x will give us that x squared. But the two numbers that go inside there with the x are -3 and a +6. So now the next step. Now that we have this factored, we're going to use this to find the solution, to figure out what x equals. And we need to use the zero product property. So remember, the zero product property says if we multiply two numbers together and the answer is 0, then one or both of those numbers has to be 0. So if this times this is 0, then either x minus 3 equals 0 or x plus 6 equals 0. So you just solve each of those equations. So if I add 3 to both sides, I see that x is 3. That's one answer. And if I subtract 6 from both sides, I see that x is -6. So this one actually, if we were to graph it, we would see that it intersects at -6 and at 3. So it looks something like that.